Alrighty, so we got about 30 minutes before the final game of match week number 15 kicks off between Nashville and Columbus, and most likely I'm not going to finish the review in time before the game kickoff, but that's why Apple TV has that option where you can basically pause the stream or even kind of go back on the slider to the beginning of the game. So basically I will not be missing action of watching the game. I just will basically be a little bit behind in terms of the stream when I finish doing the review of this game. But that being said, let us actually begin talking about this game because I don't want to waste too much time in the intro, and I want to finish this review as soon as possible so I'm not too behind in terms of the game between Nashville and Columbus. That, like I said, is going to kick off in about 30 minutes. And we start off with the first one, which is Montreal versus Miami. So coming into this game, I mentioned both of these teams desperately need a win because both of these teams are on a bit of a losing streak, and they never play like it. I mean, this was a very entertaining game, even though the final score ends with Montreal getting a big win in this one against Miami. Now, early on, Ibrahim would pulls it wide from close before Ofor would heads it wide from the corner. Ibrahim then heads it wide from close range. It was a great game for Sanusi. See Ibrahim definitely making the limited amount of time that he gets to start for this Montreal team. But I thought it was all Montreal early in this one. Like they were pressing to get the opening goal. Ibrahim then tried to curl one in, but he missed wide there before Aurora did had Miami's first shot, but he hits it right to Siwas. Ibrahim then puts it into the side netting. Before on the other end, Campana would hit one right to Siwas. It was kind of end-to-end action. Again, both of these teams desperately needs to win, and both of these teams definitely show some desperation of trying to get that important opening goal. Taylor would put it wide from close range before John would hit one right to see Was in the 42nd minute. And despite the fact that both teams had some chances, we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Lassiter looking to score against his former team, but he hits it right to counter before Siwas denying Jean from close range. Once again, some end-to-end action with both of these teams looking for that opening goal. And the opening goal finally came in the 53rd minute. It's Chinoso 4. He scored here from Lassiter and Corbo to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. So while Lassiter did not end up on the score sheet to haunt his team, he at least ended up on the assist chart in terms of haunting his old team and giving Montreal a 1-0 lead. Well, actually, it was 0-4, the one that got the 1-0 lead. And then just a couple of minutes later, he looked to make it 2-0, but he pulls that one wide in the 61st minute before Negri had a free kick shot that was denied by Siwas. Stefanelli then struck the post from long range as I thought Miami was pressing for the equalizer. And then Kamaski become the latest victim of the post as he struck it there in the second minute of stoppage time. But this time it actually rebound right to Stefanelli. And yeah, Stefanelli had an empty net to shoot. But Waterman with just a game-winning saving block off the line there. And yeah, that was kind of a huge difference because Montreal would hold on to win 1-0 in this one, as the shots in this one very even. 14 shots committed, 13 that Miami has. 5 shots on goal committed, 2 that Montreal has. 11 shots off target committed, 5 that Miami has. 3 shots that was blocked committed, 1 that Montreal has. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Montreal has in this game. And like I said, it was a very entertaining game, but it was also kind of one of those games when you look at how even play it is. It only take for one team to have that moment of magic to be clinical in terms of finishing, and Montreal just had that. But for Miami, I mean, I know this is going to be very frustrating because the losing skid continue and pressure started to ramp up even more on Phil Neville. But there's definitely some positive coming out of this one, and especially I think they were a little unlucky in this one. I mean, when you hit the post twice in this one, especially late on, and having some chances, and also Jonathan Seawall's having a great game for Montreal. It's one of the more underrated goalkeeper in this league. Yeah, that's it's just kind of an unfortunate resort for for Miami in this one that they could have got out a point out of this one, which they didn't. But either way, moving on in terms of the next match. We got New England versus the Chicago Fire, and oh, this looked like a very Chicago Fire-esque kind of game this season. I mean, if there's a game that pretty much sums up the Chicago Fire season, it's definitely this one. Because you know how this is a team that there's been so many games this year that they have multiple goal lead or goals lead heading into the last 10 minutes, and you know multiple times that they're going to blow those happen. And what's interesting in this game that both of those things happen in this one against New England. Now, early on, Navarro puts it high from long ranges. I thought it was a promising start for the Fire. The Fire were definitely the better team to start in this game, and they were rewarded by that by scoring in the 8th minute, as Kutsias would score his second goal of the season and the second consecutive game he have scored ends up on the score sheet, as he scored here from Shaqiri to make it 1-0 in favor of the Fire. Jones then looked for a response, but he hits that one right to Brady. But then in the 22nd minute, Chicago made it 2-0, and unfortunately, this is one of those unfortunate own goal from Andrew Farrell, where, as a defender, it's always going to be tough whenever the ball is placed into a dangerous area and you're trying to poke that one away behind for a corner that you could accidentally toe poke it into your own net, and that's exactly what happened in this one. As yeah, Chicago were leading 2-0 in this one, but New England does get one back. And who else but Noah Buck? I mean, the young Buck is definitely he's scoring some absolute banger. I mean, at some point they should just call him Banger Buck, because that, I feel like that sounds much better than what some people have give him the nickname the Young Buck. But yeah, he absolutely unleashed this one from long range here on target from Bobby Wood to make it 1-0 in favor of New England. Definitely in contention for goal of the week, but as I'll talk about a little bit later in this review, it's gonna be interesting to see if this is going to be another amazing goal that we saw in one of the later games I'll talk about. But yeah, that give the Revs back into the ticket back into this game as they trail by one, but they didn't trail for long, because just 2 minutes later, Bobby Wood he would get on the score sheet from McCoon and Boateng to tie the game up at two apiece, and it looked like the Fire has hit the self-destruction button once again. But this time they did it early, which, I mean, I guess that's good news and bad news if you're a Fire fan. I mean, the good news is at least there's still a lot left in this game where they can make amends of it. But the bad news is there's a lot of time left in this game for them to continue to hit the self-destruction button, and probably going to go from being 2-0 up in this game and end up losing 3 or 4-2 to the New England Revolution in this one. In fact, in the 43rd minute, it almost was 3-2 when Polster was looking for the lead for the Revs, but he hits it high from the corner, and we do head to halftime. Tie at two apiece between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Brady he absolutely robbed Veroni from close range. It was another good game here from Veroni. Unlucky to not get a goal in this one, but there was no doubt momentum was all with the refs. Like, they were pressing to try to get the lead. Veroni would then heads it wide in the 65th minute, but then in the 79th minute, against the run of play, Haile Selassie would score from Kamara to make it 3-2 in favor of the Fire. So yeah, that kind of stunned the crowd at Gillette Stadium. It was a very good crowd in this one. I think they said that there was 27,000 in hand for this one. But yeah, that kind of stunned the crowd, because they were expecting New England was going to take the lead, and they find themselves fall behind again. But the good news for the Revs is that this is a Chicago Fire, because if you thought that they maybe would hold on to this lead, yeah, no. The Fire wouldn't do so, because after Heel puts it just wide from the curler, in the 83rd minute, New England ties it again. And it's Josie Altidore. Yes, in the year 2023, Josie Altidore actually scored a goal. I didn't think that would be the case, but here we are. He scored here from Romney and Heel to tie the game up at 3 apiece. I mean, it feels like we're back a couple years ago, and that the clock really turns back now that we see Josie Altidore gets on the score sheet. And also maybe just a kind of reminder that yes, he still plays in MLS, even though he had that short loan spell down in Liga MX. He's almost taking the Landon Donovan route there. But yeah, that ties the game up at 3 apiece. But then the Fire did have one more chance to redeem themselves, as Tamara had a big opportunity, but Petrovic was able to deny him from close range in the fourth minute of stoppage time. And yeah, in the end, it was a free draw in this one. The highest scoring game in this game. Definitely one of the more entertaining game we've seen in this one. But the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 9 that the Fire has. 3 shots on goal for the 6 that New England has. 3 shots off target for the 6 that the Revs had. 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that the Revs had. And possession-wise, the Revs slightly had better the possession, 52% compared to 48% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. So yeah, I mean, for the Fire, I know coming into this game they'll definitely take a point against a Revs team that don't lose to two teams that is doing bad in the league. But again, this felt like a very Chicago Fire-esque kind of game for them this season, and this just kind of continue the frustration of the fact that this team could be so much better if they don't just keep blowing leads and find the most painful way to kind of kind of give false hope to their fans. And again, as a Quakes fan, I know exactly how Fire fans feel about their team giving them hope, and then it just snatched the way in such a painful manner. But for New England, I mean, yes, anytime when you drop points at home, it's not going to be a good feeling, and especially them dropping points against a bad team. That's something we don't see Bruce Arena team does a lot this season. But consider the injuries that they've been dealing with, and the fact that they show some really good fight back in this one, I think Revs fan will be happy with this result. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is NYCFC versus the Philadelphia Union. So, I mentioned for NYCFC, the good news is they are back at home, which is a place that they have been very, very good this season, and especially at Citi Field, because coming into this game, they mentioned that NYCFC have never lost a MLS regular season game when they play at Citi Field. Well, that came to an end in this game against the Philadelphia Union. Though it didn't look like that was the case early on, because in the first half, 8 minutes in, Pereira would hit one right to Blake before Blake denied Ledesma from long range. And again, unsurprisingly, I thought NYCFC was on the front foot early. They were pressing for the opening goal. Though Barraza did deny Wagner from long range, as this was one of the first shot that the Union has. But then in the 30th minute, that dominance that NYCFC shown early paid off as Gabriel Pereira. He would get on the score sheet here from Ledesma and Rodriguez to give NYCFC a 1-0 lead, and then Pereira looked to try to score his second goal, but he was denied by the post. It was all NYCFC early in this one, and it looked like they could potentially make it 2-0 and 3-0 to really slow down this Union team that have been red hot in the last couple of games. But then you also remember why the Union has been red hot this last couple of games, and why they're definitely playing with vengeance ever since they lost to LAFC in that two-legged CCL semifinal affair. Because in the first minute of stoppage time, Carranza would score from Elliott to tie the game up at one apiece. It was completely against the run of play, and not long after, he would score again. This time, he scored from Uru and Martinez to make it 2-1 in favor of the Union in the third minute of stoppage time, and in a blink of an eye, the Union went from 1-0 down to basically now leading 2-1 heading to the locker room at halftime. And I mean, that has to completely shell shock NYCFC and those fans at Citi Field. I mean, it was so comfortable up to that point, and just in a blink of an eye, the Union kind of turned this game on its head. And I mean, that's kind of the difference in this one, because as we head to the second half, with the Union leading 2-1, Carranza was looking for his hat trick, but he was denied by the post, and then a penalty was given to the Union after Martins brought down Carranza in the box. Julian Carranza had a really good game in this one, and he was kind of a little unlucky not to get a hat trick in this one, because I had a couple of opportunity to get it, and I was kind of surprised they decided not to let him take this penalty. I mean, I understand Gastak basically is the penalty kick taker, but why not give Carranza a chance to maybe get a hat trick in this one? They also looked to see whether or not when Martins brought down Carranza in the box was worthy of a dog so, but it wasn't according to VAR. But nevertheless, Gastak steps up to take the penalty. Daniel Gastak is not going to miss penalty, and he doesn't miss here as he scored to make it 3-1 in favor of the Union. Lowe then puts it high from long range in the 63rd minute, and again, this game just completely turned on its heads to the fact that the Union were now the one that controlled this game. And I mentioned those two goals that they score at the stroke of halftime, it just completely shell shocked NYCFC and the crowd at Citi Field. Like, again, it looked like it was going to be a routine home win for them. Now all of a sudden they found themselves 3-1 down. Though Seago did hit it wide from close range before Pereira would hit it straight to Blake. And then in the 80th minute, Barraza would deny Carranza from close range. But yeah, in the end, the Union 3-1 win against NYCFC, become the first team in the regular season to knock off NYCFC when NYCFC is playing at Citi Field. Shots in this one, 16 shots for the 13 that the Union had, 6 shots on goal for the 7 that NYCFC had, 6 shots off target for the 5 that NYCFC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to the 41% possession that the Union has in this one. And while I know Cincinnati is definitely kind of starting to run away a little bit in the Eastern Conference, creating a bit of a gap at the top of the standing, you could argue the Union is another team that is just red hot right now in the East. And again, that loss against LAFC, as much as I know that is a painful loss for them to get revenge against LAFC from last year MLS Cup didn't happen. I think that loss in hindsight kind of helped the Philadelphia Union to a point where you can definitely see there's more hunger to this Union team that you can definitely see they want to have a redemption tour to a point where they can finally win a trophy rather than the supporter shield. And with the form that they have been in, and if they continue to play like this, oh boy, we could have a collision course when Cincinnati play against the Union. Like I think those two teams I mentioned at the beginning of the season are look like the two teams that is going to come out the East and battle in the Eastern Conference Final for the team to represent the East. And we're heading to that way. And I also can't wait until both of those teams meet each other, because it should be a very interesting matchup when that, of course, does happen. But for NYCFC, the struggle continue. I mean, this was supposed to be a time where they can maybe bounce back because they're back at home, but no. Instead, again, those two goals that they concede in the first half, absolute backbreaker to a point where they just never recover from. But that being said, moving on, in the last game on the sport is Orlando versus Atlanta. So for Orlando, if there is one thing that they've started to at least found some consistency, is drawing games. But unfortunately, that's not really a consistency that Orlando City fans want themselves to found in the category. And in this game, they should have won against Atlanta United. I mean, they were in control in this one, and then they were not in the last 5 minutes of this one. Early on, there was not much happening in the first 15 minutes between these two old Southeastern foes before the first shot of the game came in the 16th minute, as Pereira would hits it right to Guzan there. Brad Guzan, of course, being back between the sticks a little bit sooner than I thought he was, because I thought that injury was going to keep him out at least at the very earliest until June or July, but he's back in net for Atlanta in this one. Torres then puts it high from long range in the 24th minute, and I thought Orlando was starting to gain some steam. Like they were picking up the momentum, looking for the opening goal, and they do get it in the 30th minute. It's Kyle Smith, the one that scores the goal for Orlando City, and normally when you see Kyle Smith scores or a defender score, it's probably from a corner. Nope, this was actually a great strike there from Kyle Smith. Like this is one of the rare times you see a defender can strike it very well to hits into the back of the net, and that's exactly what happened in this one. And Orlando gets a 1-0 lead up to that point. On the other end, Peralta looked to get an instant response, but he missed wide from close range before Guzan would deny the red hot Jankara from the corner in the 44th minute. And we head to halftime with Orlando leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Smith already got his first goal in this one, looking for his second one, but his shot is deflected and actually goes right to Guzan. Once again, I thought the game started to become tight, which, that kind of is in favor of Orlando City. It looks like they were maybe going to cruise their way to a 1-0 victory. But as the time winds down, you can start to see that Orlando was looking to try to get that killer second goal. And I think that's a good thing for them, because we've seen before where teams, when they have that 1-0 lead, they just kind of sit on it at home, and it, of course, turns out to not be a great idea, which I'll definitely talk about tomorrow. Which team, of course, is one of those teams that does that. But yeah, they were trying to look for that killer second goal. Ojeda would hit one that is denied by Guzan, and then Barry had a rare opportunity for Atlanta in the 79th minute, but he missed that one wide. And then Araujo would puts it just wide from long range. And I know they keep pronouncing it Arujo. Again, I'm just gonna pronounce it Araujo, just because he's Uruguayan, and I think that's kind of the Spanish pronunciation. I mean, I also want to know one day how Cesar Araujo pronounce his last name, because I know coming into this one there was a possibility we're going to have Luis Araujo basically is facing against Cesar Araujo, and honestly, that would just be a mouthful to deal with. Not just for the broadcaster, but also for myself. But I think the good news in this one is that I think Araujo did not play for Atlanta United in this one, and it's just Cesar Araujo that play it. But I'm still just gonna pronounce it as Araujo, because I swear that has to be the Spanish pronunciation compared to whatever these announcers have keep pronouncing it. But nevertheless, I also thought, will the inability of getting that second goal come back to haunt Orlando? Because again, they were looking to get that second goal and they're unable to do so. And it did. In the 87th minute, it's Tyler Wolff scoring here to tie the game up at one apiece. So Tyler Wolff has started to score some goal lately, almost following the footstep of his brother Owen Wolff from Austin FC. I know Owen Wolff early in the season was also scoring a couple of goals for Austin too, and it seems like now it's his brother Tyler, the ones that's scoring the goals for Atlanta United. But yeah, that ties the game up at one apiece, and the momentum kind of changed in Atlanta favorite because they weren't just satisfied with just getting a draw out of this one. They forced Galese then to deny Barry in the front post. Again, momentum was all with Atlanta. They were looking to steal all 3 points in this one. And Cho had an opportunity in the third minute, but he just sends one wide from close range. As in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 11 that Atlanta has. 5 shots on goal for the 3 that Atlanta has. 5 shots off target for the 4 that Orlando has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Orlando City has, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And again, for Orlando, they will be very frustrated with this result. I mean, they look comfortable at least for the most part of this game, and they just kind of let it slip late in this one. And for Atlanta, I think they'll take the draw. I mean, I know with how they play in the last 5 minutes, I think Atlanta fans will be maybe a little frustrated because of the fact that why didn't they show that kind of effort in the first 85 minutes, but nevertheless, they still were able to grind themselves to rescue them for a draw. And anytime when you do that on the road, it's always going to be considered a good result. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games to finish off part 1 of this review for match week number 15. So moving on in the next one, and probably the most surprising result from match week number 15 is Toronto getting a win against DC United. And with just how much turmoil that TFC has been dealing with these past couple of days, and they're still dealing with it as we speak right now, I definitely did not expect Toronto to get a win in this one, and especially the fact that part of the turmoil is the disagreement between Bob Bradley and Insigne and Bernadeschi, and obviously Bernadeschi didn't play in this one because Bob Bradley decided to bench Bernadeschi because of some sort of comment that he made about the team. Insigne did play in this one, and he actually made a huge impact in this one for this TFC team. Now, early on, Miller denied Marshall Rutty from close range. I thought this was probably one of the better games that Jaquil Marshall Rutty had played in this one. In fact, the youngster for TFC really played well in this one too. In the 11th minute, Insigne puts one right to Miller. As again, I thought it was a great start for Toronto. They were looking to try to get the opening goal. Hedges would heads it wide from close range, and then in the 14th minute, after all the pressure they put early on DC, they would score. It's DeAndre Kern. He scored here from Insigne to give TFC a 1-0 lead, and then Marshall Rutty missed it just wide from close range in the 36th minute. And I mean, bro, a, who is this TFC team? Because they definitely do not look like a team that is going through turmoil with the way that they play up to that point. Though, that being said, in the 44th minute, Johnson did deny Benteke as he was in on goal before he denied Mateus Click on the free kick. Definitely one of the better games that Sean Johnson has had. I mean, it's been a rough season for Sean Johnson, and he maybe regret the fact that he probably should have stayed with NYCFC instead of jumping the ship to move to Toronto. But that being said, Toronto does have a 1-0 lead, and in the second half, Insigne looked to make it 2-0, but he puts it wide from close range. And again, another promising start for TFC. They were looking to trying to get that second goal, though O'Brien puts it just wide from close range in the 67th minute. But then in the 72nd minute, TFC does get that second goal. It's Kofi C. Thompson. He scored here from Insigne to make it 2-0 in favor of TFC. Again, another youngster for TFC scoring in this one. Both of them, of course, assisted by Lorenzo Insigne. Nahar then looked for a quick response, but he missed that one wide there. But you just kind of feel like even with this two goal lead, I don't think any TFC fans are going to feel comfortable knowing the fact that this feels like it's too good to be true, and it kind of looked like it was because after Funtas would puts it wide from close range in the 87th minute, Benteke would strike as he scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of DC, and all of a sudden it just felt like it was hold your breath time for TFC. Like they need to hold on to try to get this big 3 points. Williams then missed the header wide from close in the first minute of stoppage time, but yeah, in the end, despite DC did push hard to get this equalizer, Toronto survived. They win 2-1 in this one, and the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 19 that DC had, 4 shots on goal compared to 5 that Toronto has, 7 shots off target compared to 3 that Toronto has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 8 that DC had, and possession-wise, DC did have the better of the possession, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that TFC had in this game. But overall, for DC, I mean, Wayne Rooney, he was absolutely irate about his team performance, and he should be, because yeah, this was one of the worst performance that DC had played. I mean, it kind of got better in the second half, but that first half performance was an absolute train wreck, to a point where Wayne Rooney mentioned the fact that he had to make 3 substitutions to change this team, and he's almost said he wish he can make 11, because yeah, it was that bad in terms of how DC was performing in the first half. And again, this is a huge missed opportunity to face against a TFC team that, again, I know this is a big win for them in terms of the result, but again, we don't know whether or not in the grand scheme of things are still changing. I mean, I will say that at least maybe it changed a little bit, because once the winning begins, I think this off the field distraction will start to kind of go away a little bit, because they as the old saying goes, winning definitely cure anything, even if there's some bad things happening behind the scenes. But we'll see whether TFC can continue to do so. But I'm still planning to do a video talking about the behind the scenes situation, where it's just kind of very sad to see the ongoing bickering between their star player Benedeski and Insigne, and then them having a standoff between Bob Bradley. And now there's even new information of the fact that players are kind of being afraid to speak up against Bob Bradley, because they know that his son Michael Bradley, who's the captain of this team, is not afraid to be that instant or, well, not instigator, but be kind of that, how do you say? Oh, what was the word? He's kind of the guy that is like the enforcer, the one that is going to, yeah, he's going to hear the information, and he's going to immediately talk to his dad about that, and then things just gets really ugly from then on. But that being said, moving on in the next one, we got Houston versus Austin FC. So this actually started well for Austin in this one against the Dynamo, and then it didn't. But in the first half, 9 minutes in, Finley would miss Hyde from close range before Rigoni would head it wide in the back post. And again, I thought Los Verde started the better team in this one and were looking for the opener, and they do. In the 21st minute, it's Jerzy Zardes. He scored from Leva to give Austin a 1-0 lead. That was a huge milestone goal for Jerzy Zardes, because he scored his 100 MLS career goal and become, I think, the 12th player to score 100 MLS career goals. So certainly congratulations to Jerzy Zardes reaching that mark. And I think it should come to no surprise that after Zardes finally scored his first goal for Austin a couple of games ago, it seems like we're starting to see the same thing that he did with Colorado, started to transition to him with Austin, where once he kind of broke his goal drought, he's going to start banging the goals in consecutive games, and that's it is exactly what's happening, and that has to be great news for Los Verdes fans. But what is not great news is that Houston started to push back. Bear would look for an instant response, but he missed wide there in the 23rd minute before Herrera would hit it just high on the free kick, as Houston was pressing back and looked for the equalizer. And they do get it in the 36th minute. It's Hector Herrera. He scored here to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And then in the 41st minute, Stuver would deny Ibrahim. But Ibrahim did score on the rebound, but the flag was already offside. And it was offside when Stuver made the save on Ibrahim. So whatever happened after that, it really doesn't matter. The play was already dead. Pereira then hits one right to Stuver in the 42nd minute, and we head to halftime, tied up at 1 apiece between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Stuver would deny Herrera from close range before Cascante would hit one right to Clark. Clark then denied Urruti from close range, and then Oferson would hit one right to Stuver in the 79th minute. It was kind of back and forth. I mean, both of these teams were getting some good chances. This was a game where I thought this Copa House was up for grabs, as both of these teams were looking for the winner. and it's the Dynamo, the one that gets the winner, as Ivan Franco would score the winning goal in this Competitas. He scored here from Steres and Herrera to give the Dynamo a 2-1 win. And yeah, that would be the final score of this game. Shots in this one, 15 shots for the 11 that Austin has, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that Austin had, 6 shots off target for the 5 that the Dynamo has, 4 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Austin has in this game. So yeah, the Dynamo continue their strong start this season at home. You know, they've only lost once this season at home, and that was an unfortunate game because they were down to like 9 men against Seattle, and they lost it in the final minute. But it seems like their home form has continued to be strong. But for Austin, just as you thought maybe they have turned a corner, yeah, this is gonna be a bit of a setback for them to trying to get themselves back into playoff contention. But that being said, moving on in the next match is Minnesota versus RSL, and I think when you look at how this game played out, I think a 1-1 draw is kind of the fair result for both of these teams. And I also would like to say that this is kind of one of those rare resort where where it ends in a draw, where I think both teams will be relatively satisfied in terms of how this game would end. But in the first half, Maria would go for a spectacular overhead kick, but he puts it high there. He actually got booked for that because he did make some contact, and I thought that was just soft yellow card to get from the referee. I mean, yeah, yes, I know that that's kind of a dangerous play with him kind of trying to overhead kick and did kind of connect it to one of the RSL defender, but really, I mean, I just think that was soft, especially with the way that happened in just the third minute of the game. But besides that, there was really much that happened. I mean, that was the only shots for the first 10 minutes. The second shot came in the 15th minute when Trap fires at wide from long range, and then Rubin was in on goal there. But you know, Rubin is snake bitten this season, and even though he's trying around Dane Sinclair there, Sinclair just got enough to kind of parry that one away. But I thought the Loons got away with that one because that breakthrough from Rubin all happened because of just a WTF turnover from Michael Boxall. In fact, I thought the defense in this one, you know, I know they only conceded one goal in this one, but man, there were times where they were having some shaky moment. And I also just wonder whether maybe this has started to be because of fatigue. Because again, this team has played a lot of games, and the same goes for RSL too. And you know, when you see teams are starting playing a lot of games, and especially Minnesota playing almost the same center back game in and game out, fatigue maybe started to become a bit of an issue to this back line. But I also thought that it's been a great road game for RSL, and you know, for RSL, it seems like recently they're starting to turn their season around because I mentioned they got off to a bad start this season, and then they play well, and then just recently in early May they kind of got themselves back in a good start, or back themselves in a bad start to the season, or got themselves back to being in a bad position, and now have got themselves to a decent position in the last 3 game unbeaten. I mean, it's almost like a roller coaster ride that RSL is going through right now. But so far, it's been a great road game for them. I thought they were very defensively organized. The Loons were having a tough time in terms of breaking down this RSL back line. And they were also picking their right moments whenever they go on the transition. Though in the 22nd minute, Longwane did pose it wide from close range before Krylak puts it wide from close, as the shots were only 3-2 in favor of Minnesota through 25 minutes. But then in the 28th minute, the opening goal happened. It's Jefferson Savarino. He scored here from Maswowski and Ojeda to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL, and Dane Sinclair got 5 hold there. So yeah, that's probably not a great moment for Dane Sinclair. Again, I feel like this season Dane Sinclair has kind of regressed a little bit. He wasn't as good as what we saw last season. That's one that I think he probably should have saved. But at the same time, you could also put that goal blame on the invincible defending from the Loons. I mean, just you just cannot let Savarino with that much space for like that and expect that they weren't going to concede there. So yeah, they were down 1-0. But the good news for the Loons, they didn't trail for long because a couple of minutes later, it would actually be Justin Glad that is credit for the own goal. They originally gave this to Longwane, but it was pretty clear that Glad basically got the last touch off of that. And actually, this one actually hits off the post, so Longwane actually hits the post, and it just kind of took one of those unfortunate bounce right off the leg of Glad. into his own net. So yeah, that ties the game up at one apiece. Again, a little bit fortunate for Minnesota, but honestly, with how this team has played this season, I mean, I'll take any luck that they can take, especially on the attacking end. So yeah, that ties the game up at one apiece. Dotson then looked to score his trademark banger only goal, but he missed it just wide there. Before Maswowski looked like he retake the lead for RSL, but the goal was disallowed because he fouled Tapias before he took that shot. And I'll tell you what, this was kind of debatable because, I mean, I think he did kind of caught him a little bit, but really it was not by much. I think Tapias kind of embellished a little bit of that, but I think he just did enough to make up the mind of the referee to call a foul and a free kick for the Loons. But I also thought the Loons defense, they were really struggling whenever RSL was going direct. Again, I thought RSL, they did a really good job in this one in terms of picking their moment on the transition, and Minnesota was having a lot of trouble in terms of dealing with it. Longwane then heads it just wide from close range of the 3rd minute stoppage time, but we do head to halftime tied up at one apiece. Now in the second half, McNabb actually had to be subbed off in this one. He actually took a bit of a knock in the first half, and there was question whether if he was gonna stay in. Well, he did stay in for the remaining of the first half, but he was eventually subbed off. So in comes Gavin Beavers. So yeah, last time Gavin Beavers was the RSL netminder, yeah, he conceded 6 goals against Columbus in an MLS game. But keep in mind, Beavers did play in that U.S. Open Cup game against Colorado, and it looks like he was actually really solid in that one. So, I had a feeling that maybe this is not going to be the same Gavin Beavers that we saw in the game against Columbus. But in the 54th minute, Savarino did put it wide after Dane Sinclair just misjudged the flight of the ball. Again, Dane Sinclair, very shaky game in this one, and got away with one there big time. Longwane then had a shot that was blocked off the line by Silver before he hits the side netting as the flag went up. I mean, Bongakule Longwane. I mean, I feel like we clearly don't deserve the way that he's been playing. He's been just a lights out player, a player that last season we definitely saw that there was potential that he can become that player, and it is just so great to see that he has blossomed into that because he was just by far the most dangerous man for this Loons team. But one thing that I also will say is that they were definitely much more aggressive on the attack and started to figure out this RSL backline. Again, in the first half they were having a lot of trouble when they're trying to crack that RSL backline. In the 85th minute, Sung Bin would hit one right to Beavers before Amaria would hit it wide in the back post. But then on the other end, Yakison would put one right to Dane Sinclair, and then on the other end, Sung Bin would cross it wide from long range, and then Gomez had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. So yeah, this was kind of up for grabs late in this one. Both teams was pushing for that crucial second goal, but in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw. And the shots in this one, 16 shot compared to 9 that RSL had, 3 shots on goal for the 2 that RSL had, 4 shots off target for the 9 that Minnesota has, 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that RSL had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession that RSL has in this game. So yeah, again, looking how this game, of course, play, I think a 1-1 draw would be a fair result for both of these teams. And as I mentioned, I think this is a result that both of these teams can't complain. I mean, for RSL, it's a great roll points for them. Consider how many games that they've been playing, and they've been still able to keep up that high intensity in this one. And for Minnesota, I mean, it's rare for me to say that a home draw and them dropping points at home is considered a good resort. But I really love the show of the fight in this one, and especially Adrian Heath. He actually made the right decision in this one. He actually decided to go for it in the second half, making those attacking sub, and that's something that is rare for Adrian Heath. Usually, when I see Adrian Heath when games are like this, he tends to not really roll the dice a little bit, trying to be aggressive to get the 3 points. But I really like the fact that he did so. And again, even though it didn't pay it off, that's a encouraging sign to see. And again, it's just one of those games where as much as I'm a little disappointed that they aren't able to get the wins. And again, anytime when you drop points at home, which has been a big problem for this team at Allianz Field, is considered bad. But just the performance and the fight that this team's shown, I mean, there's really nothing you can say that is that you can complain about that it just didn't get the resort. And also, I would like to say that it's pretty clear that I'm really hoping Reynoso can be back in this team anytime soon, because I think that first half performance where they really lack any creativity, that's a lot down to the fact that they just don't have that playmaker. I mean, ever since Robin Lod got injured and is going to be out for long term, they just don't have that kind of player. And that until Reynoso does get back and hopefully getting himself back to the Reynoso that we saw from his time with Minnesota, I do am a little concerned that I don't think these kind of grind out resort is going to be enough for this team to make it to the playoffs. But that being said, moving on into the last game of this review is St. Louis versus Vancouver. So Vinny Sartini definitely made an interesting decision in terms of goalkeeping change. He decided to give Thomas Hasal a chance in this one, despite the fact that Takaoka has been playing very well lately. And yeah, that decision would backfire big time. And it's unfortunate because, I've always been a big believer in Thomas Hasal. I mean, what he did in the MLS's back tournament in 2020 really try and make me jump the hype train that, yeah, this is a young Canadian goalkeeper that maybe could have a chance to be a regular stop minder for this Vancouver team and can maybe propel himself to be considered in the Canadian national team. Yeah, it's safe to say that thing is now all gone, because I mean this has been a huge fall from grace from Thomas Hasal to a point where I don't think Vancouver fans will be very happy if they see Hasal be the net minder anytime soon in future regular season game. But early on in the first half, Jarrett Stroud would pulse it just wide from close range before Giacchini would puts one right to Hasel. And straight off the bat, St. Louis was pressing hard to get the opening goal, and they do get it in the 10th minute. It's Edouard Leuven, the one that gets the opening goal for St. Louis. Definitely a goal of the week contention, and this is the goal that I mentioned earlier that can definitely win the goal of the week, because it's not very often you see a player decide to chip a goalkeeper on a free kick from long range. And yeah, Edouard Leuven, the audacity of him trying that, I mean, that was definitely a gutsy kind of play. But I think it's parts to do with the fact that this was kind of a heads up play from Leuven too, knowing the fact that Hassel was kind of cheating off his lines a little bit. He's trying to chip over him, kind of dinked it over his heads, and it worked. Though again, for Thomas Hassel, not a great moment for him. And little did we know that was the least of the mistake that he had made throughout this game. Though in the 11th minute, Vite did look for an instant response for the Whitecaps, but he hits it wide before Vasilev would puts it wide from long range. And after just a fireworks start in this one, I mean, it was a great start to this game. Things did start to kind of calm down and tighten up a little bit with little chances created by both of these teams. But then in the 45th minute, St. Louis would make it 2-0, and this would just be. I mean, for St. Louis, I can understand why some haters of St. Louis have said that this team has been very lucky, and this goal basically is a good good proven point where they've been just gifted so many bad mistakes. But I've always said that these bad mistakes is not by accident. St. Louis, with them being a pressing team, playing that energy drink soccer kind of playing, are kind of forcing teams to make those bad decisions. Though I will say that this is definitely not one of those moments, because this was just an absolute blunder between Blackman and Hassel. I mean, Blackman, he was trying to head this one back to his goalkeeper, but I mean, I guess maybe there was just some miscommunication between both of those players, because yeah, Hassel was way off his line there. Blackman should never head that one back toward his goalkeeper, because when you do that, yeah, and your goalkeeper is already off your line, that's going to be a disaster. And little do we know that that's exactly what happened. Blackman trying to head it back to Hassel. Hassel was way off his position, and just an absolute blunder of a goal and a gift that St. Louis has got a lot this season to make it 2-0 heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Hassel would deny Leuven, but again, he allowed a juicy rebound, which Strout looked to pounce on it, but he hits the post again. Up to this point, you can see Thomas Hassel was just completely rattled, and that St. Louis recognized that, because it was shoot on sight. They were taking a lot of long range shot because they know Hassel is vulnerable and are allowing those juicy rebound. Stroud then puts it wide from long range there before goal did have a rare opportunity in the 73rd minute for Vancouver, but he hits one right to Berkey. And Veselinovic actually hits one that there was two Whitecaps player in the back post trying to tap it in, but couldn't do so. And I thought St. Louis got away with that one, because when you allow that many players in the back post, completely unmarked. Yeah, that's you don't get away with that, but St. Louis got away with it there. And I also thought that they got to be careful because it's only 2-0. The old saying, the 2-0 lead is always the most dangerous lead, and if Vancouver can get themselves back in this game, maybe things could be a little bit tense, and they did. In the 83rd minute, it's Brian White scoring from Gresso to make it 2-1 in favor of St. Louis. But thankfully for St. Louis, they would eventually restore that 2-goal lead not long after. And it's Perez, the hometown kid, scoring here. And what a great moment that is for Perez there. I mean, he is a guy that just graduated from high school a couple of days ago. I mean, talk about from that to now scoring a goal on the weekend and scoring his first career MLS goal. What a great moment that is for that young man. But you can also thank Hassel for that because, yeah, again, Hassel, he was just absolutely rattled up to this point. It was just allowing so many juicy rebound. And here, he didn't actually allow this juicy rebound to Perez. It was actually Ostrak, the one that he allowed the rebound to. And he originally did make the save on Ostrak's shot, but it fell right into Perez. And yeah, Perez easily tapped it in for his first career MLS goal to make it 3-1, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 16 shots for the 12 that Vancouver has, 2 shots on goal for the 7 that St. Louis had, 8 shots off target for the 5 that St. Louis had, 4 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Vancouver has, and possession-wise, 39% possession compared to 61% possession that the Vancouver Whitecaps has in this game. So, like I said, it's a rough game for Thomas Hassel in this one, and I don't think he's going to be the goalkeeper for this Whitecaps team anytime soon. I mean, I'm assuming Takaoka would be back in net for this team, but yeah, in the end, and St. Louis, a good home win, and also not to mention they becoming the first expansion team to reach 25 points in just their first 13 games. That's the quickest that any team has been able to do, and it's safe to say that remember that rough stretch that they were on a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, those like that rough stretch is now over, and that just sums up a good team in the league. Where every good team is going to have some rough patch, and St. Louis has done a great job in terms of coming back from it, which just shows you why this could be on point, maybe the best expansion team we've ever seen in league history. I mean, they're definitely on point for that. The points total that they had right now is that definitely on point to breaking LAFC record that was set in 2018 as the most point an expansion team has ever got in their first season in MLS. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review for these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 8 games? And like I said, later today, I will be reviewing the 2 Sunday game that happened, which with one of them actually just kicked off about 10 minutes ago, and then tomorrow I'll be reviewing the last 4 games from match week number 15. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.